Hello and welcome to the Cafe Cast, and tonight we will be talking about angry stranger than fanfiction.
I don't know how to feel about that.
A particularly fun topic, methinks. Boy. But then again, I'm the guy who's used to have people yelling at him for lack of agreement in what I think of episodes, so... Alright. But first, let's go around and introduce the rest of the Cafe Cast. First we have Nova Brony.
Good evening, Cafe Cast viewers. It is I, Nova Brony, here ready and willing to organize my thoughts for this one occasion in which the episode has given me a lot of ammo and actually made me rewatch it immediately after watching it. So I hope you guys are ready, because we're about to see a whole new side of myself in which I get down and dirty with the details for this episode. So check us out.
Okay, that means hi, I'm Nova Brony, and yeah, I'm going to talk about this episode.
Literally, that was so overdrawn out.
Oh God!
That's his style. That's how he always introduces himself.
Exactly.
I don't have a direction I chose to call you, but it just ended up being nothing but run-on sentences. Just.
Right. We all know it's your style by now. With anybody who doesn't appreciate it is already gone. Okay, next we have Wolfkeen.
Hey guys, Keen947, aka Wolfkeen here.
Welcome aboard.
Oh, yeah, thank you. This is my first time being here, so let's hope I don't burn the place down.
We didn't have you in any Cafe Casts before?
No, this is my first.
I thought you were in the one. Whatever. My bad memory is not what people are interested in here. Anyway,
go ahead. No, it's like I've been asked to be invited a few times, but I never was actually a part of one.
Okay, well, glad to have you here at long last.
Yep.
So moving on to Anime Wolf Gamer.
Alright, hello there everyone, this is the Anime Wolf Gamer.
Yes it is. Alright, and finally we have Calliope Pony.
Hello, everybody. I'm Calliope, and I love this show even when I criticize it.
It's important to keep in mind. I mean, I make the same claim, but nobody really believes me all that much. But,
Welcome to be a reviewer in general, where you say you love something, but people think it's the complete opposite when you critique it.
But the rest of these people are somewhat more pleasant in their tones than I am, so you have probably a better reason to believe them. Alright. So, yeah, this is M.A. Larson's return to the franchise after a year's gap, although, I mean, I believe the word is that he didn't actually come back to write it. They pulled it out of the archive, something that he'd written up before, and that he, in spite of the credit only going to him in the credits, he might not have been solely responsible for how it came out. But in any case, this is another episode that addresses the fandom itself, as it were, kind of like a lot of people thought Stranger Than Fanfiction did, maybe even arguably thought Spice Up Your Life did, but alright, so yeah, opinions on this one are going to clash in a lot of ways. Let's have at it. Nova, you're first.
Nova entering the arena of death. Alrighty then.
Second choose Unova. Or Unova, I choose you. I don't know.
Okay, yeah, the second part was true. As for a lot of things. But let's begin with how I feel like in the beginning of the episode, some people, like a lot of people tend to interpret it like how Twilight was using like the moral from like Return of Harmony, and thinking that like how it traced back to the Friendship Journal, and how many people thought it was like nonsensical. And we kind of sort of like before the podcast began discussed like how the more logical explanation could be like we could have had some of those friendship letter entries inside of the journal, but I don't think that was really it. I think that was really more of like the writer for the episode just like making some sort of like pseudo connection between like reiterating like a past moral in order to help the young, and then her thinking about that reminds me about the journal. I think maybe that was the intended meaning for why it led to her led to Twilight thinking about like going to the castle in order to get the journal. And even though it was a bit muddled with like the exposition idea, so I guess that's why a lot of us had trouble thinking about the rationality behind it.
I don't know if that sounds like a rationality behind it, more as just like a writer's thought process. Like rationality would mean that they like successfully tied in an explanation, and that if I understood correctly, it doesn't sound like what you're describing.
But then again, this is Twilight we're talking about. She's probably one of the least rational characters in the group when you really think about it. She feels like everything needs to be done by the book and otherwise, and sometimes some actions that she makes can be a bit hasty because she feels like, oh, it's following these instructions, so let's go for it.
Yeah, I think the most likely explanation is that Twilight probably incorporated her friendship reports to Celestia into the journal, because several things in the episode reference stuff from the first 3 seasons, and they didn't start the journal until season 4. And adding the friendship reports into the journal seems like the kind of thing Twilight would do.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah, knowing her, like, doesn't she also archive a lot of stuff too? I mean, that's kind of clear too.
And that would make sense because the journal, when she finds it, is in a pretty badly kept together state.
Which I also like to go to the point about the condition of the journal, which there's actually possibly 2 explanations for it. Well, maybe even 3. Even though it's only been like 1 to 2 years per se since the start of season 4 for like the ponies possibly, and like the journal's conception. Like the one rationale is what a lot of people thought of, which was it was affected by Tyrik's attack on the treehouse, which that would mean like the book really didn't take like the brunt of the attack of Tyrik's fireball.
It took an indirect effect from it, probably like, blast damage or whatever have you.
But another reasoning behind it is the castle itself was attacked once around the later part of season 6 by Starlight's hooves, essentially, when her mind control shenanigans caused the entire castle to be flooded. Which could
that could be it too.
That would beg the question, though, of why all the other books aren't in bad condition.
That's the thing I'm trying to bring up, though. It's like with the Tyrik situation, that wouldn't also make sense because, well, actually, that's kind of the hard one. The Tyrik one could make sense, but then again, she had the book with her at one point thanks to Discord. Then when it comes to the Starlight one, the book should be unaffected because she didn't do any kind of physical damage to the castle itself. It was primarily the table. And the table, as we know, is far away from the library.
I think he was talking about every little thing she does when Starlight mind controls the others and the castle gets flooded.
Yeah.
Oh, that's...
But like I said, that does beg the question of why the other books seem to be in okay condition.
Exactly. Yeah. They would have all suffered water damage.
I would say either the book was damaged in the Tyrik attack, because you look at it when he blasts the tree, the top part of the tree is completely blown away, and the bottom remains somewhat intact, so I can believe that stuff that was on the ground floor may have been damaged but not destroyed. And the other possibility is, remember that they were passing it between the 6 of them, and first off, we don't know who had it at the time when the attack happened on the Golden Oaks Library. It could have been in the homes of one of the other main 6. But also just the fact that it was being passed around between them, and Spike wrote in it, and the Crusaders wrote in it. Just that kind of passing around could lead to it getting really beat up.
True enough, but I feel like there has to be someone who like keeps a general eye on it. And if it is indeed Twilight, then I don't think she would allow it to end up in such decrepit repair unless she felt she had no more need of it and no need to keep an eye on it. Which I can see that happening after maybe season 4, because the journal, to a certain degree, had served its purpose.
I think it was a writer's overplayed attempt to emphasize the fact that we haven't seen it in a while, and it might be best to think about it from the perspective of the writer.
I feel like
the explanation.
Oh, I just thought of something else. When they were trying to figure out how to defeat T-Rex, Discord summoned the book and gave it to them to look at.
I said that.
Yeah, but they were in the castle of the two sisters when that happened. So as far as we know, the book may have been left in the castle of the two sisters, and it may have been there when T-Rex attacked the library.
But that would make even less sense because the
Yes,
castle...
it would. I'm not saying it explained anything. I'm saying that's probably where it was, which means
exactly.
an explanation that doesn't make any sense. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's like its decrepit shape makes absolutely no sense to some degree, because if it was at the castle of the two sisters, that means it was left unchecked, and probably the only thing I could possibly make a guess at if it was at the castle of the two sisters was that, remember, the castle of the two sisters is mostly outdoors for the most part, because remember, it's still in a destroyed state. I can maybe see like the elements and such affecting the book to a certain degree, but then again, someone would still have to go back and get it. So that's kind of that's the only argument I can make, is that the book was just affected by the elements because the castle is not in a kept up state that you could habitably live there.
Yeah, it could have been exposed to the wind and the rain and the stuff with there, which may be the most likely explanation.
I wouldn't say rain, but I would say the humidity of the rain.
Yeah, and I can also believe that they wouldn't have thought of going back for it until later because they were so busy dealing with T-Rex.
Exactly. So, yeah, I can see maybe something like that happening, but that's the only explanation I can give towards the book being destroyed. Well, not destroyed, but in a bad state that they had to basically fix it.
Okay.
My own philosophy on this kind of thing, like, if you have to reverse engineer an explanation for the episode beyond the kind of stuff that happens every day, that it could be, that, like, the explanation could be just one of hundreds of things that happens every day. If you have to go beyond that, then it was just a gap in the writing, and it's best.
Yeah, I believe in that argument. It's like if the people have to fill in the blanks themselves and the writers don't do it, then you fail. This was my biggest problem with the season 5 finale, I think. That was my biggest problem with the season 5 finale, is that a lot of people had to fill in the gaps themselves, and the writing didn't do a good job in doing so.
Gotcha.
I do not, personally, I don't mind if there's gaps that are left to be filled in, because sometimes I find that fun to think about how it could have worked. What it depends on for me is how big the gaps are and how far you have to stretch to fill them. So I'm going to say needing to fill in gaps is not necessarily a bad thing, but it can be depending on the circumstances.
I mean, I do like if the episode is like, if that is trying to make that part of the fun, like, ooh, what do you think happened here?
If I may, I like that sort of idea, but here's the thing. I have to look at the product that they've given me right now, and I have to ask myself the question, does what I got now do what it needs to do to explain certain things? And when it comes to the book itself, the answer is no. I could speculate as much as I want, but there's no concrete answer on it. So,
I mean, like
but then you could also argue that the state of the book is not really an important point to consider.
It's not, but here we are talking about it for more than 5 minutes.
This is such a brony moment right here.
Well, it is still Unova's turn to talk, and I have a feeling he's got a lot to say, so maybe we should let him get to it.
It's kind of like the way that's been going on. It's like I've been giving you guys guidelines, and we're sort of going through the episode piece by piece, sort of like everything Wong with style.
Hey, I brought it up. I'm the one who decided to go along with it.
Alrighty then. Like my last point for like the prelude before the opening would have been like the when Starlight was saying like when Twilight was saying like don't judge a book by its cover. I was just like, was there any point even having that sort of dialogue in like the episode when it literally didn't show anything but like the old decrepit book in its state? And I just was. Oh,
dude, would you look at a book that was in that kind of a decrepit state, like, honestly?
Yeah. start saying what my opinion of the episode is?
Yeah, hey, we'll get to your turns. But I mean,
okay, so considering this episode being controversial, I thought I'd say this. I really enjoyed the episode, at least until the end when they mentioned the moral thing, because I was sort of confused on what they were trying to say on that one. But before that, I feel like that the people who got angry the most, people need to understand that it's not directly responding to the analysis community on how most people, form their opinions and all that. Mostly because it's touching on at least the 6 major complaints to each of the characters, Twilight with the wings, and Fluttershy not learning her lesson because she keeps repeating it at the same time. Rarity not being the same as she used to. Pinkie Pie only being a joke. Applejack being a doormat, and so forth. Oh, and Rainbow Dash being an egotistic asshole. That episode was more responding on those basis of the arguments, and not relying on that alone does not make it work.
Well, here's the thing I need to say, if I could play devil's advocate on that one. I don't mind this sort of idea that they're doing, primarily because, in all intents and purposes, the citizens of Ponyville know absolutely nothing about the lessons that the main 6 learn. They're not there for all of the adventures that they go through, and they don't know about every single exploit that they do. They know about the times they save Equestria, and that's primarily about it. So the fact that the book got released with all the lessons and all the adventures that they've been through, I can go along with the idea that they make these sort of conclusions and arguments, because now they have something to look further towards and something to work off of. Whereas before, they know practically nothing.
Not true. Very true.
All right. Well, it is still Unova's turn, so let's let him continue.
Yes. All right.
It's fine. It's fine. It's at least giving us some good interludes with the other people in the cast, so that people don't forget it's not just one person talking each time and then someone jumps into the call to talk. At least we're getting ourselves involved here. So
reviewing the cafe cast itself now. I'm sorry, go ahead.
This is how bad at this review will go. We will go and take everything bit by bit.
We will.
Okay.
The audience can't wait.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
All right. I like to go after the prelude and such, when Twilight and Starlight are talking to the Council of Friendship over at the table and talking about reprinting the books via magical spell. I kind of sort of got a bit of an inkling on my second viewing, and I think there was one problem that I might have had an issue with that no one else seemed to think of it as a problem, and I think that problem was Starlight's role in the episode. I just let me just first give you a question. Was there a character that was missing during the entire episode that was a part of the friendship journey?
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
Yeah, I heard other people making the same remark. I forget where it was, but I saw someone saying that it seemed like Starlight's role was originally written for Spike.
Yeah, exactly. It's Spike is completely MIA in the episode. It's where is he? Yeah,
and here's the thing. I feel like Starlight in this episode, the role that they put her in, if it's true that they might have rewrote Spike out of it and put Starlight in, she basically became a combination of Spike and Twilight's combined role in the entire episode, which that is definitely not good when you have Twilight there, in the episode, because for one thing, here's the thing that was kind of sort of been building itself up from say season 5. Starlight has been there to be able to do the spells that to say either restore the table, restore content, or even duplicating spells as shown in in every little thing she does. She's been shown to be doing a lot of these spells, while Twilight's spells has been been reduced a lot more. And I know it might be because Twilight knows that she might be more competent or more free to do multiple types of spells. But I think that's the thing. The whole idea about Starlight being both the voice of reason, in which either Twilight or Spike usually involve themselves in the role of during the episode, but then combine the fact that Starlight also does the magical spells that that used to be like Twilight's thing, it just rubs me off like very much the wrong way. That it feels like they implemented her very incorrectly in comparison to like what they did with her like in the earlier parts of season 7, and when she's been like the outsider, like gaining like friends that are basically like outside like the social hierarchy, or in the case of very much like stragglers like Maud or Discord and such.
But if I may, I feel like Starlight's inclusion was also important in this episode because she plays the greatest role in this episode, just like she did in A Royal Problem.
Yeah, like, honestly, I think,
let me finish real quick. I'm almost done. Because think about it. Yeah, Spike was not included in this episode, but he is in the same problem as the rest of the main 6 since he wrote lessons. Starlight, for all intents and purposes, is an outsider in this situation. Like, complete outsider. So it's like she's able to see this from a different side of the fence. And I feel like that's kind of what Starlight's role is starting to become within the show itself. She's kind of like the character that can see a different side of the fence, unlike the rest of the main 6, who already have their tempered experiences on this kind of stuff.
You know, it kind of
That's a good point.
It kind of makes me wish that season 6 actually tap in on that way before, because now, you know, people still has a problem with how it's just kind of here now in season 7 without any build up. Which,
well,
yeah,
this is
I tend to agree on that too. Like, wow, seriously, they you know, season 7's fixing a lot of things that season 6 did, but there's one thing they can never fix anymore was the fact that how Starlight suddenly now is earning all this, which is nice, and everybody, including me, who are fans of her, actually like that. But unfortunately, I'm gonna have to take on past analysis note on that. This all came suddenly without any build up in season 6, which really is a problem, unfortunately.
No, I won't deny that. Season 6 had a bad time writing Starlight. Like, there were episodes where she was just gone. I feel like that they're doing a better job with her in season 7, thank God. Yeah, and I feel like they're placing her... Sorry, go ahead.
Like, you know, yeah, they're definitely fixing everything. I just wish they did it sooner, because the thing is that I think what annoys me most is that, you know, the head writer at season 6 kind of went back against his own writing in season 5. Like, they made it clear of what's going to happen next, and I'm like, yeah, and you know, that's going to happen eventually. Like, Twilight have a student and all that, and then the head writer said, nah, ignore season 5 and let's just put her away for a long time until I figure out what to do with her.
But I don't know if this show ever had a clear plan for Starlight. It seemed like everything that I ever saw get started with her seemed to like go back in the other direction, sometimes in the same episode.
Yeah, it's like they tried to do something with her, and then she just drops off from the planet. Look at 28 pranks later. She's not even there!
Man, I wish they did. But, yeah, like, right now, I'm glad they have a clear vision, and this episode shows it. And this entire season seems to be going that. And, hell, even the next episode is going to do that, too. So, yeah, they're acknowledging this. And I just wish they got it sooner, because even then, this is also a big problem. Every time when a Starlight episode comes in, I love what they did, but then you have to keep thinking, where's the build-up before this?
I feel like Starlight in this season...
Good.
Okay, continue.
I feel like the role that Starlight is being placed on in this season, and I feel like this is a good role for her, is the role of the outsider, the one that doesn't have the same personal experience and otherwise is the main 6, because going quickly to A Royal Problem, I've said this to a bunch of people, no other member of the main 6 would have been able to fix that problem except Starlight, due to her being an outsider in this situation. If any other member went in on that situation, they would not have handled it the same way she did, because of their, you know, their close connection to the princesses.
And
Starlight doesn't have that.
Starlight Glimmer, the element of rashness.
But
yeah, and that's kind of what I mean with this episode. Sorry, I know I'm cutting off. This is real quick. That's kind of what I mean with this episode. The main 6 are in the crossfire of a massive situation, but whereas Starlight, she's the outsider in this one, she's able to think about it more in that kind of a perspective and think of a better way to handle it.
I mean, she was at least able to, like, kind of rein Twilight in when she was panicking at points, although that's just a little bit undone by the fact that the episode doesn't want to be reined in. It kind of wants to be like, no, it totally is as bad as all that.
Yeah, pretty much.
that's the thing. I'm really glad that that's like, and that's kind of the best thing about this episode. Like, it really shows Starlight's big potential, and the rest of the season build on that, and it makes it more clear that that's gonna be it for the for at least like, and hoping that season 8 also builds on that a little bit more too.
Yeah, season 7, I mean, it is nice that we finally have writers who come in and say, like, alright, we gotta knuckle down on this, this is the direction, this is where we're going, this is our reverse engineered explanation for why she hasn't, like, what she's been doing up to now, let's go for it. But yeah, that does still leave it with a lot of baggage to, like, sift.
I mean, I didn't mind Starlight Glimmer, it's just that now I'm glad they're finally utilizing her in a way that makes sense.
It's just that, like, and that's one thing I cannot defend people from, because seriously, there is no excuse for her to be disappearing in season 6. I mean, it's not like Discord where we saw that he actually lives in his own dimension and does whatever shit he wants in there. Yeah, it's not like that.
She lives in the castle, and she just disappears in episodes. Hi, Dungeons and Discords.
Yeah, it
just spikes away in Canterlot on royal business. Like,
oh, you're talking about look before you sleep?
Yeah, first the main six go on. That was ever the explanation.
The main six go on a friendship retreat, and Spike, Discord, and Big Mac are inside the castle. Where's Starlight? Who knows?
Retreat is like.
If I can also touch on things, like, there is one thing I don't get about the episode, and that's the ending with the moral thing. I know that they are trying to make a statement on the kids' part, but I have a bit of a problem when they don't clarify that, because it just ends up saying that only, like, with kids only liking it more, like, and the fact is that, morals are important, but the story and how we got there is also more important, and I think that's what kids are turning into, at least most of them. Like, the show is a family show, and that's always gonna be that. But I think people would actually, I think a lot of children and a lot of families actually, tuned into this just to see where it's gonna go, and people, just like the story. And
I'm sure we all have our own thoughts on the ending, actually, but let's let Unova finish out his turn.
Yeah, like I wanted to continue on with like that train of thought. Like, that was another important thing I felt like was an issue with the episode. The intended meaning of the product that the creators wanted from their stimuli. In this case, Twilight just wanting like people from all over Equestria learn to become better friends, but then didn't expect the backlash of like people all of a sudden bothering them in their lives, harming like their business sense, or even harming their family life, essentially.
If I may, that's communities in a shell nut. That's communities in a shell nut when you really think about it. You want to do something with the best intention, but then a lot of the time it just spirals in a different direction that you could have hoped to have predicted.
That's what in a shell nut?
Communities.
Okay.
I was going to say, continuing on, like, it felt like it was missing that part of that part of that concept in order to make everything feel realized, and it just only had the elements of like the nitpicking and critiquing of certain elements of the journal in order to be like we feel like the story is unrealistic, like we're focusing on all the wrong points. I feel like that is probably going to be like the thing that rubs off the baddest out of all the points brought up by this episode.
I hate to be that guy for a moment, because I feel like this is something that a lot of people don't realize. But if you got rubbed off the wrong way by what the episode was doing with that kind of connotation, you're that audience that they're doing that to. Because literally, there are people like that overanalyze, say that some things within the story are completely unrealistic or otherwise. Look at Stranger Than Fan Fiction. That's one of the main reasons Quibble jumped ship with the Daring Do books, because he felt they were becoming way too unrealistic and way too far, outlandish compared to the down to earth series that the first three used to be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know it's tempting to give this episode a pass just to be like, no, see, I'm totally
I'm not giving it a pass
by this, but I mean, or at least to rate it in. And I mean, on some level, I mean, it's true. Like, the people who totally fit into description this episode's talking about, I mean, obviously they would be among the crowd who are bothered by it, but I mean, yeah, like, I'll leave exactly what I think on the back burner for now, but I feel like there is such a thing as doing this kind of thing wrong.
So, yeah, exactly.
Well, you know what? Just from what I've been seeing around like YouTube comment sections and such, every time I've seen someone so far express anything that they didn't like about this episode, they've had other people jumping on them saying, see, you're the problem that they're writing about. So please, let's not go there, because it is perfectly okay to have legitimate complaints and to not like an episode, and people should not be demonized.
I don't mean it like that. The way I'm saying is that that's kind of the idea that they want to present, but if I'm being fair, it was not done properly. It was done very, like, to the point that, yeah, they're trying to be like, oh, you're part of this kind of problem if you are like this. But it's like, yeah, but you could do it in a much nicer way that makes it feel more like a funny thing rather than a, well, now you just insulted me, thanks, kind of thing. That's kind of what I mean. It's like, I see where they're going at with it, but they kind of messed it up.
You see that, so but yeah, I guess who was about to say his own take on that one.
For me, I felt like it detracts from like the episode, like that sort of like missing part of it's not just like the intent of the creator, even though that could be like a common thing for like new creators to like deal with their product. Some people like be focusing on details that you wouldn't think to even consider, even if it's like based on like your real life experiences, and I feel like that's kind of like the thing that really breaks the fourth wall in this case, but in a bad way. It makes it feel like you're breaking the fourth wall in the way of like these ponies who live in the same world as the ponies who are living through these lives are being criticized for stuff that are outside of their control, really. And not like the direct writers, which is why the message gets muddled.
Yeah, exactly. It could be taken the wrong way if done improperly. And yeah, there's some areas where they did do this improperly. Like, some of the lines I feel like should have been written out completely, because it just felt like it was like a massive vent towards the community. Just like, I like Twilight better when she didn't have wings. I'm like, there's no other like thing you're referencing there. You are pointing at the people who complained about that crap.
Well, I think they're mostly referencing just the base argument. The ones who just rely on, Twilight has wings, she's no longer a good character. I think they're talking about those.
Yeah, but that can be rather insulting to them as well.
I mean, it also could be insulting to the people who honestly feel like that after giving the wings a chance for like multiple seasons, like I did. And in the end, I kind of laughed along, like agreeing with that statement, even though looking back at it retrospectively, it was meant to mock people who had that sort of argument. And also argued.
Yeah. I mean, it's totally true, but that just is what it is. Only one challenge can be the best one. So.
Oh man.
Oh yeah.
It's just that to me, like that they're only referencing the base argument and the ones who only rely on that alone without backing statement. I'm not the ones who had like an opinion and actually stand by it and stand by it and all that.
I don't know if it's so much intended to pull its punches or direct its punches like that. I think when you're a writer getting like everything from emails to tweets about what these fans think and wanting you to validate their opinions or their thoughts in some ways, I think it kind of blurs together into white noise after a while.
Yeah, it's like one of the ways that they did this properly was I've said it before that it's a mess, but it's one that's enjoyable if you're a fan, and that's Slice of Life. Slice of Life does dabble into a lot of the stuff that the fandom is into and otherwise, but I feel like they do it better there compared to here, where it feels like they're mainly trying to go into kind of the anarchy of like the different communities that are around within the Brony community.
Well, I don't think it's like an insult to the analysis.
Not an insult, just a weird sort of like contrast that doesn't work.
I honestly think it does work, but I will say this: You know, it's amazing to me that this show managed to do it 3 times with the reference of the fans, and they did not insult, and they did not make it so horribly contrived or terrible like the Teen Titans Go with its entire 6 episodes.
Don't even get me started.
Oh god! I even mentioned that all the way in the 8-bit reaction about like people might have gone like upset at that Slade episode. Just. Yeah.
Don't even get me started on Teen Titans Go because they already released an episode that I wish I could snap in half.
I didn't watch the show after episode 2, but looking up at the episodes that people say that it's a mention to critics, and I found at least 5 or 6 episodes doing that. And when I check at least one clip from each, giving it in a perfect example, MOP is a lot more respectful to the fans than that piece of garbage.
Yeah, they're
Teen Titans Go is kind of a dead horse by now. Everybody knows it sucks. It's proud of the fact that it sucks. It seems to think that there's something clever and rebellious about
it's like Michael Bay with Transformers.
Much help for it.
Or even the fact that Cartoon Network even excuses it a lot of times by saying like, this is just only so that we could actually get profit over like the internet age, and which has taken a lot of our audience. So now we're trying to advertise to like the younger audience with like these jokes that seem to work on them via Teen Titans Go. It's like
to that argument, I say you're no better than game companies that release microtransactions. But that's a different argument for a different day.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Where were we?
Yeah. Oh yeah, where were we? Oh yeah, I'd like to move on to like another point similar to like the old pony making that M.A. Larson classic joke about everything was better before Twilight got wings. Like for example, the team argument from like that little Pegasus filly, aka it's the analog for the best pony argument. just and also can also be interpreted as possible Twilight highlighting of Team Edward versus Team Jacob. Which that I was just like, oh god, I had to groan. I remember that.
I'm just kind of shaking my hands like in a on that one. I really can't say.
Like seriously, like if my pony was actually there in that kid, I would have been like, boo! Rainbow Dash is actually the worst, not Rarity. I just
honestly, that moment just had me look at it and just like tilt my head like, okay.
I think that's been a complaint among the fans for a good long time.
Yeah, even in the current season 7, I think, possibly. Or even like the latest being like season 6. Like some of the Rainbow Dash episodes.
I mean, it's kind of funny, like, they're taking jabs at the fandom and all, but, like, the specific complaints themselves that they point out and try to fight against, like, they're actually most of the ones that, I agree are not good complaints. I'm like, episode, I'm kind of on your side there. If you want to get at me, like, you should probably be, trying to fight against this, and this.
Basically, it's the people who are just cherry picking, if that makes any sense. Like,
exactly.
Oh god! Don't remind me about cherry picking.
This is why I don't agree. Which is why I don't agree when I see people saying that the writers are butthurt. No, they're not. Like,
if they were really butthurt, you would know.
You would know from like the conversation, the Twitters, and the public appearances. Like seriously, like look at Teen Titans Go. Both on reality and in the show, they both very much self-grandize like the fan base or the people who are irritated with Teen Titans Go. But in My Little Pony's case, they're very appreciative of us. They wanted to poke a little bit of fun. Even M.A. Larson, who hasn't been in the show for a long time, still interacts friendly with the fan base. Goes with the jokes.
Yeah, like that's kind of the that's kind of the thing that always bothers me. Like that's fine if you don't like the episode, but I don't see them actually going ha ha ha. Look at that, we the fandoms made them so butthurt that the show is declining and all that.
Yeah, who do you think Hasbro is? Konami?
Oh, you terrible!
Hey, as long as I'm around, I'm gonna make gaming references, and I don't apologize.
Nice. Also, technically, card game references with Konami at this point.
Yeah, we haven't heard much from Callio, so.
From Caldeo?
I said Callio. I don't know how to pronounce her name.
Calliope.
From me?
Calliope. Yeah, we haven't heard much from you.
Oh, No. I'm waiting for my turn.
Well, all right, on that note, Unova, why don't you, finish out your turn so we can, make our way
so we
around
can,
the
like,
circle here.
move on with... Alrighty then, let's see, lastly, basically, like, the negative behavior shown in the episode with the ponies, like, boycotting, like, even, like, one pony who was, antagonizing for she said, I don't even know how to feel about this certain change of your character. And it's, like, also Twilight's, like, endurance through, like, the entire episode. AJ doesn't liking the popularity, and even, like, the sweet apple admirers basically having OC apple cutie marks.
Boy.
Which, oh god, that I will never be able to unsee that.
I don't know how to feel about that. That's literally what someone said at one point as well.
Yeah, you're nothing like the Fluttershy in the book. I'm not sure how I feel about that.
And it's the worst part is that I say that way more than I would like to, so it's like,
oh god.
I relate to this guy.
Fluttershy directly talks to the fandom, answers their complaints on it.
No, but I was thinking before in last week's podcast. I think when we were talking, I don't remember which episode it was. Perfect Pair. I think we were talking about, and Fluttershy's character came up, and we had this discussion where we were talking about the complaints that she has the same struggle over and over, and I remember I was speaking in defense, and when Fluttershy had her little rant, she was basically using some of the same words that I was last week in our podcast, defending the writing on her character.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing is that I'm with Fluttershy on that one because, like, people don't realize you don't learn your lesson immediately as soon as you learn it. It takes time. You're gonna make the same mistake a few more times before you finally, like the message and otherwise finally clicks.
Or in the case of motivation, or like building steps in order to like go for a goal. Not everyone's going to be able to jumpstart. Some people it could be lazy. Some people it could be extremely difficult to go through those emotional hurdles and such. Like there's like one point in the episode that really showcases like a very horrible thing. Like you might have blinked it and you missed it, but when the shy complainer that was the fat woman was saying like Fluttershy's shyness is too unrealistic or too much of a quirk or being unreliable, it leads to a Fluttershy fan being ashamed of her opinion and shying away from that Fluttershy basher, and I'm just like, holy crap!
Yes, I saw that. I didn't see it the first time, but I went back to rewatch the episode because I really needed to rewatch it in order to get my thoughts in order for this cast, and the second time I saw it, I noticed that.
And that was just like heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking because it's so true. It's so true.
It's like, it's like, I remember some, like, there's a well-known person, which I will not name, keeps mentioning that doesn't work, but, different people have different quirks, and, it doesn't take, and, some people just have a long time trying to understand it compared to others. And not to mention this, like the one they mentioned in the episode, Fluttershy is not like that anymore. At least not what she used to. Like, she still has some of that, but now she's like at least a bit more assertive and all that.
Yeah, exactly. And if I may, like, for instance, I've suffered with social anxiety for God knows how long in my life. I'm only now starting to get a better handle on it. But that's kind of the trick. It's like, it's taken me a while to be in situations that helps me get better at it, given an opportunity to actually improve on it, and given time to actually let the message sink in. Nothing is learned in a day. Rome wasn't built in a day, after all.
I mean, the other thing is, that's like, I mean, the notion of, like, you learn a lesson and like you that you just overcome a flaw and reach a like Zen perfect personality. I mean, I gotta feel like basically. That's something that doesn't happen, period. Like, that's not really what life is about. It's about adapting the traits you're always going to have, work with your situations better. And I mean, on that note, Fluttershy's episodes, I mean, they like in the categorical sense, they had to do with asserting yourself, but they were all like kind of the different challenges that life can throw at you and that you might struggle with if you're someone who particularly doesn't like conflict or wants to avoid it, or yet
I mean, Anthony C says it perfectly. Fluttershy is called Fluttershy. Being shy is a part of her nature. That's just how she is. But she has gotten better with being less of a doormat over the seasons and is being more assertive. She's never going to fully get over her shy nature because that's her. Same way how I'm never going to get over my more aggressive nature because that's just me. But the difference is that we can get better at controlling these moments and learn and, you know, applying it to better situations.
But even like during while those episodes were still airing, I felt like people were kind of missing a lot of the slow, subtle half of the growth. Like the very first time we see Fluttershy, she can't even say hello to a stranger without mumbling and freezing up, and then we do see her getting past this bit by bit, like in Sonic Rainboom, where she tries to stand up the Rainbow Dash in a noble attempt sort of way, at least.
It fails, but at least she tried.
Yeah, and that's something that I agree with, and I really tend to hate it teams that don't understand that.
But yeah, well,
when you have personal limitations, you don't shove them 10 feet ahead all at once. You nudge them a little at a time, and that's what Fluttershy does. She takes baby steps. Her confidence and her social skills grow gradually, and I think that's actually a really realistic portrayal.
Yeah, it's a part. Yeah, and I feel like she's one of the more relatable characters in the show. Not my favorite of the main six, mind you, because I'm not with her personality traits, but I like her because at least, like, you see her slowly but surely progressing in character and becoming someone better. Hell, in this episode, we actually see her get visibly angry.
That's
kind of back to the episode itself. I feel like the Fluttershy answering those ponies surrounding her, like making her counterpoints.
No,
I feel like that's the only time that what the complaints in particular are actually matter. Otherwise, it kind of just comes across as anything the writer, I guess M.A. Larson, heard the fandom say more than once.
But I also mean the later part, when we go through the song and they end up going back inside the castle, you see Fluttershy visibly pissed and venting. We would not normally see that in, earlier seasons.
Oh yeah, Fluttershy, during the entire episode, like at first when she was cowering, very, very visibly I was scared for her, but then I just keep on laughing when she kept on getting visibly upset. It's like, yeah, this is definitely not the same Fluttershy. It's like when they changed the Guard of Riders via the Starlight Glimmer shift for the arcs. Fluttershy has clearly become someone of a assertive, timid, an assertive, soft-spoken girl that really you don't want to get her pissed because she's now willing to vent her oppression, even more than terrifying them from the season from putting your hoof down. In all honesty,
there was always the implication that Fluttershy had it in her on some level or another.
Exactly, and now we're finally seeing it. She has control of her assertiveness and otherwise. But if things push her too far, she is going to get angry. I mean, she's not immune to being angry like everyone else.
So basically, that episode, Philly Vanilli back in season 4, they actually meant that. Baby steps. Baby steps.
Exactly, and it's good to see, that's one thing I'm glad to see. I'm glad to see, they can play Fluttershy, learn the same lessons. Yeah, well, it's because it takes time.
Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. Anyways, first thoughts on the episode themselves go. Do you have any, final things to add, Unova?
Okay, the one thing that was very much shocked during the episode was the song about We Aren't Flawless, which I felt the vocals were fantastic. Possibly, the one indicator showing, these vocalists for, the main six still haven't retired or given any less energy, or perhaps, given, their very best here, even compared to, the earlier song in season 7 with All Bottled Up. Mm. But the messages of the song of each of the main characters was there was things that I felt very disagreed against that were shown like in the episode, like the criticisms or the looking into like the episode that was like, it was like a microcosm, like these flaws weren't exactly the things people were complaining about. Maybe something that some of the writers heard of, though I don't know where they would have gotten some of these things, like Applejack's too eager to please in that attitude. Or maybe like the whole Rarity anger moments, like about like people hating her being like a drama queen or emphasizing like that stuff. Like that's early season 1 complaints. Like I don't think people were even complaining about that after Suited for Success, and even became a whole following for Rarity fans.
Yeah, to be honest, I was really confused by the Rarity segments because pretty much what the episode was painting was people hating her, but she's a very popular character. I don't know very many people who even dislike her.
I think the thing is, I wish Applejack and Rarity's problems would have actually switched to make a lot more sense.
Well, actually,
that would make more sense. Come to think of it,
I thought I should. I thought here's something I think there's an answer to. Rarity. Okay, for me, the vocal minority for Rarity that I also saw, like during my time in the fandom, there was this few people who said this. There are actual complaints of people saying that Rarity is not the same character that they used to like back when Fox was writing the show, and people actually thought that she'd been changed a lot meaner and a lot more terrible, regardless of how many episodes they put out. That vocal minority is the one that they were complaining about on that.
I don't know if that's like, if that minority is vocal enough or widespread enough to be any kind of like seriously noted complaint. I mean, I'm almost wondering if this was like either A, just kind of any complaint that whoever wrote these complaints in just heard more than once, or B, whatever complaints fit the narrative of people having a problem with the fact that the main 6 are flawed, which is easy to strike back against because obviously that's one of the show's greatest strengths, that it doesn't shy away from the flaws, that it revolves writing around
that's the weird thing about Rarity. That's the weird thing about Rarity is because she's honestly one of the fandom's favorites, because I have a friend who is a deep Rarity fan, and I don't know, I don't usually hear a lot of complaints about Rarity except the one, and even then I don't even think it's that big of a problem, is episodes when she's too generous. Like people say, oh, some episodes she's not generous at all, and then other episodes she's too generous. I'm just kind of like, I don't see the argument here, because people try to use the elements of harmony argument, and I just literally use this argument. Just because they're that element doesn't even mean they encompass it 24/7.
But
traits that make them inclined to act that way. So, I mean, not that I didn't think any of Rarity's writing on her, how generous she is, was never ham-fisted, but I mean, that's, you write 150 some episodes, it's kind of par for the course at some point.
Exactly. If I may, about the song though, I gotta be honest, not a fan of the lyrics. I get the message that they were trying to give out, but I don't know. I found it to be way too self-indulgent, I think it is. I found it to be way too self-indulgent, a song, to the point that I wasn't hating it, but I definitely was like, yeah, not my thing. I did like the beat, though. The beat was probably one of my favorite things. It reminds me of, like, an opening to an RPG. But the lyrics themselves, no, not a fan.
I guess similarly I kind of had that problem. Maybe like for some of the meanings of some of the words, but yeah, I could definitely see where you're going with that. It overall, like, the song was like, the acoustics were fantastic, possibly like the best I've ever heard from these girls. But the message behind the song was very ham-fisted, and yeah, I wouldn't have expected it to like change much of anything.
Yeah, I predicted this is not going to work. This is not going to work. This is not going to work. Oh, look, it didn't work.
Well, that's accurate. I mean, bronies, for better or for worse, are never going to stop.
That is so true. It hurts. It's so true that it hurts.
It will never end.
It will never end.
Yeah, like, I actually kind of like the song. It actually sounds better than that. And I think it's been a while since we had one. Or was it the last episode that it had one?
The last one, the last one was
Perfect Pair.
Ah,
No,
it hasn't been a while.
Pair.
It's only been an episode.
It's only been an episode, but before Perfect Pair, it's probably been like a long time, actually.
Yeah, so we go from a really good song with Perfect Pair that's very heartwarming to this that you can either take it or leave it. It's like, but then again, songs don't factor into my overall enjoyment of an episode. So, even if I despised it, I wouldn't, like hit the episode hard with it. It's like, it's a song. I don't mind.
On that note, though, one thing I was thinking about earlier was, now the writers may not know what order the episodes are going to be broadcast in or how the episodes are going to be received in advance, but it especially seemed weird to me that this episode that was like, the fan base is too critical, came right on the heels of an episode that seems to be universally beloved that everyone was praising.
Timing, especially with like some of the old bronies coming back. Imagine the reaction to this episode.
Don't even get me started.
It was just so hard. If I was a fly on the wall to hear their reactions, it would have been priceless.
Oh man, though.
Anyway, but yeah, okay, Wolfkeen, I think it's your turn to give us your overall thoughts on the episode.
Overall thoughts on the episode, I said this in a speed impressions that I'll be uploading probably in a week or two from now. This episode's pretty meta. Like, depending on the kind of person you are within the community, you will get like some kind of connection or otherwise, or probably get something out of it in certain points. Like, when I saw the over-analytical reviewer, I was like, God, I can be like that at times. And it made me laugh a little because even I look at myself and I look at some of the scripts and otherwise I work on, it makes me just be like, shit, they're not wrong that I could be this way sometimes. And I did like that. Like, I don't mind the idea that Twilight had, producing a book, publishing a book so that people can learn the lessons that they learned, but unfortunately people taking it to such a different degree that she could hope to predict. And the message at the end itself, I feel like could have been done better, because I get what they were trying to do. They were trying to give out the idea that some will gain something out of what you do, while others will either not gain anything or take it in such an opposite direction. One of the morals that not a lot of people took much out of, but I did, was the one from, not asking for trouble. The idea where Pinkie Pie pretty much, gives the ex help even though they said no and then they're appreciative of it. I took something out of that because that's literally how I am. I hate asking my friends for help, but they do it anyways, and I'm just like, well, thanks.
Exactly.
And so I kind of see what the message was supposed to be. It's supposed to be the idea of some will take something, and some will be able to gain something from this, while others will just take it out of proportion. And you should just focus on those that do gain something from it, and not let the others that don't, take you down.
I think that overall is like a giant microcosm of the fan reaction in a nutshell. The episode itself works.
No, the ending of the episode did make me laugh a little, where they were just like, so what are we going to do about them? And they're just like, just hold on to this moment of friendship, Applejack. They can wait. I'm just like, wow. So basically, forget them. They don't matter. Back to the hug.
I guess we can put up with you guys to inspire the little girls we were hoping to reach.
Well, then again, I guess it makes sense that kids would gain something out of it, whereas adults like us can sometimes take certain things to a certain degree. But there are some that will take something from it.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, think about it. We're all like in our 20s or something, so I guess it would make sense that we'd probably overanalyze, whereas kids wouldn't think too deeply on it unless, to a certain degree. I'm not saying that kids are stupid or anything like that, because my nephew is like not even like 15 years old, and he's smarter than my ass at times. And that's saying something.
So, but I mean, yeah, it's we're coming more from like the perspective of, comparing this to our other favorite animated shows that, at least.
I like this episode. Like if I was giving anything on my
Goodbye back to Josie, you good?
It's like if I was to give this anything on my rating scale, I say this is a good episode. It's not great, but it's definitely a good one that I can go back to.
Mm-hmm. Now, okay, anime. I guess you. Well, you actually, I think you pretty much already gave your thoughts. But I mean, do you have anything to add?
All right, Esther. Okay. Oh, damn. Sorry, I just dropped something. But anyway, I really did enjoy this episode. But however, I did, there are some few kinks that I think they could have at least touch upon just a bit more, like the moral and maybe some certain stuff that they're trying to mention. But other than that, I honestly think that this is so far this is my second favorite episode of the season so far.
Nice.
Gotcha.
That's a pretty bold statement too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually planning to review this episode because I really want to talk about this. I just gotta get a lot of other stuff done.
Understood.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Mm-hmm. So I guess, Calliope, it's your turn at last.
Waiting patiently.
Okay. I'm probably going to get a lot of flack for this based on what I've seen in various comment sections, but the episode really did rub me the wrong way.
Oh.
And I compare it to something like Stranger Than Fanfiction, which I felt addressed overly critical fans, but did it in a really, really good way. This one, I get what they were going for, but the execution felt off. And, episodes like Stranger Than Fanfiction and even some of the others that deal with criticism like Party Pooped and Spice Up Your Life, those episodes, despite dealing with criticism, had a very positive feel for me. This one felt kind of mean-spirited.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Like I did say earlier on that depending on how this kind of a message is approached, it could really rub people the wrong way, like how they approach it and such. And I do feel like they don't approach it in the best way possible.
Like, for instance, if you look at the ponies that were at the end, there was this whole mob of screaming, fighting ponies outside the castle at the end, and there were two inside who were like, yay, we love the journal. And that kind of seems like it's saying that the majority of the fandom is the problem and that there's this tiny little minority that's actually good. And that may not be what they were going for, but that's what it felt like to me.
Yeah, it feels like, that could be interpreted that way, especially considering that it makes it seem like because they published a journal, which is a generalized idea of messages, it makes it like, these people don't understand the messages, and only these two kids understand it. It's like they could have worded that or structured it better.
It did kind of come across like, I guess we can put up with this fandom if we're able to do the good we set out to do.
I honestly think that it would have been better had they brought the parents along, their parents, and made it, show about a family enjoying their book. That would have made it.
That would have been nice.
Or had a bigger group of ponies coming around and having a positive reaction at the end to show it's not just a tiny little minority that are good fans, so to speak, but that there's plenty, and maybe it's just a minority, a vocal minority that cause problems.
Well, they kind of hit.
Yeah, show both sides and all that, and which unfortunately that ending is the reason why everybody led to believe in a symbolized term, ha ha ha, we got the writers so butthurt, ha ha ha, like that.
But if you really believe that, then I don't know. I don't think that was their intention. I doubt that was their intention, because if any writer was...
That probably was not their intention.
They probably
it came across that way to me. Again, that's probably not what they were going for, but that's what it felt like when I was watching
Exactly. It's like they gave off the wrong intention to someone like you, like, because there are plenty of writers or even designers that make something purposely bad to go along with like a story. Like No More Heroes 2, when they make the final battle purposely bad to make you feel bad for going after your venture of vengeance. Like, that doesn't work, though. That makes you just feel like I'm just playing something bad. Here, it's more like, they tried to go this route, but... they weren't trying to go this route, but they were trying to be lighthearted about it, but they ended up messing up to a degree that some people will take this the wrong way.
I don't know. I mean, like, you look at Stranger Than Fan Fiction, that kind of thing. Like, we saw, like, they got in some pretty good elbows to the ribs on Quibble Pants and stuff, but I mean... Well, actually, I will give you credit. I do think that was cleverer than this, but
It was clever, and it felt more positive overall.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like,
it didn't feel like
we're willing to give that credit, though. And I mean, like this, I do think there was a lot more venom in this, but I also think that venom can be a legitimate tool of creation, legitimate tool to create things. But yeah, I guess I'll save that for when I get to my thoughts.
It's like basically like for the reaction of Stranger Than Fan Fiction, some of the overcritical people kind of took looked at all the flaws about like Quibble's arguments and felt like it discredited like the point of the episode essentially. So I feel like this episode is kind of like a big consequence of that if like things didn't lay down, and it's like I feel like some of the new writers might have altered what Emmy Larson wanted to write in the script. And maybe turn it a bit more negatively than intended.
In terms, it's basically they're trying to take lighthearted jabs at some of the things that the community does, but instead, to some people, it feels more like that they're just taking the piss out of us.
Yeah.
Yes, that's it. Something like Stranger Than Fan Fiction and even Party Pooped felt like lighthearted jabs, whereas this felt like a sting.
Well,
yeah.
I don't necessarily truly, mostly agree with that. But however, I do get the implication. Though, like, to be fair, like I can at least say that they're only getting the base argument, and just that they're just addressing that. Although, yeah, I just wish, seriously, I really wish that Glimmer brought in the parents of those children too, and they actually read the book and they said, "Wow, we actually enjoy your book. You are just amazing. You are just amazing ponies and all that." Because at least it would show a message of families together. That is something that I think I don't know if that's an script or just the fact that both versions of the script did not have a description of the families coming there and just.
I don't think that was necessary anyways, because it was very much hinted at from the very beginning of the episode that this kind of a message and otherwise would more apply to these two kids that are fighting with each other. I don't think the message is about only kids getting it. I'm just thinking that only certain people will understand the messages and the intent of what you're trying to do.
On some level, I don't want to be like the needy kid. Like, okay, I mean, it came across as rough edge, but we know you really love us writers. It's like, I don't know. Well, I mean, granted, this is just one writer, maybe a few, but it's like, you don't know. I mean, they did have, like, the approach they take is that every pony just straight up jumps to the most, like, over-the-top extreme possible, like, completely, becoming vindictive and entitled and constantly pestering over this. I mean, there really wasn't much of a middle ground, and I mean, like I said, I do think there's venom.
No, there really wasn't.
Like that is what it is. But I mean, like I'm not sure this episode necessarily even wants you to like just brush it off like you giving me that playful elbow in the ribs.
Yeah, exactly. It's like when I think more critically about the episode, it's like I get what they were trying to go for, another attempt at lighthearted jabs at the community, but again, it can be taken the wrong way by certain people and be more seen as malicious than it does lighthearted. And that is kind of unfortunate because if written correctly, then everybody would be able to enjoy it. The way it is now, only
Devil's
certain
advocate,
people.
Though, like, I mean, how do you know it's not written quote-unquote correct, like as intended? How do you know it doesn't want to come across as a little bit malicious?
Oh God.
Well, because at least we get. I feel like the main six are a crux to this, where they try to explain themselves or otherwise in each situation. Fluttershy being the best example of this, where she explains that yes, she learns the same lessons over and over again, but that's because it takes a while, and even like so far as to go in saying, "Have you learned a lesson in a single day or otherwise?" This kind of stuff takes time. It's like, that's kind of how I feel like they're not trying to be malicious. They're just trying to take a couple of jabs, but also try to kind of, like, you know, this and this happens.
Yeah, well, it's like, I don't know, because, I mean, the end result both times is that they don't listen, that, like, they're an unstoppable force of nature. They won't give it the heck up already.
Yeah, there's no real middle ground in this one, unfortunately. People that are unsure about this entire situation. But then again, what I notice in any community is that the middle ground person is usually the one that gets ignored the most.
Yeah, pretty much. You know. And
yeah, because we notice whenever there's something going on, if there's a love-hate thing going on, the people that are usually in the middle are the ones that are ignored.
Yeah, you know, and that's kind of a problem when, you know, certain bias, you know, and that's basically just bias, and that's just biases and all bias, and you know, sorry, like I put it off, but anyway, yeah, it's basically bias all around, and no matter what you say, and no matter how much you said you don't necessarily agree, but you understand the person, they're gonna get mad at you no matter what if you don't actually agree with it. You know,
agree or fully disagree. Exactly. Like I just said it perfectly. I know what the episode was trying to do, but I can understand like people. I can understand why people like, I forgot her name again. God dang it.
Calliope.
I can understand why people like Calliope see this as being more malicious than it is lighthearted. Like, I can't see this message.
You know, and I like the entire episode myself, but I understand some people who don't. Some people who don't, you know, just as long as they don't actually pull the butthurt excuse and all that.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I feel like that's kind of the whole idea in a shell nut. It's like you gotta learn to agree to disagree.
There was
Calliope's turn though.
Oh, okay. There was something else that the first time I watched the episode, there was something bothering me, and I couldn't tell what it was. And then when I went back and rewatched it, I figured it out. Now, if you look at the main six, each of the main six ponies deals with a different type of reaction. You know, we see each of them dealing with what you might call a different faction of the community, the fandom, whatever. Mm-hmm. And all of the main six's experiences dealing with these fans are extremely negative. Yeah. But if you actually look at the different fans, now the fans who are reacting to Rarity were very negative. You know, they were the ones who were just insulting and being hurtful, and there's definitely a faction like that, and they are usually just the ones running their mouths off.
Yeah.
And the faction going after Fluttershy was the ones who were being overly critical of character development. And yes, we can see them being overly critical and not giving her a fair chance. So those two groups, I can understand the main six having problems with. But then, look at the others.
Yeah, like Applejack.
Like Rainbow Dash, the ones who were coming after her, they weren't interested in the morals. They liked the journal for the awesome parts. And the ones going after Pinkie Pie, they didn't care about the serious bits, but they loved the comedy. Both those groups loved the journal. The ones going after Applejack, they wanted to form a community. They felt like part of the family, much the way that we have the online fandom community. And the ones who were coming up to Twilight in the street were perfectly polite, were very reasonable, asking her for the autographs, weren't harming anybody, weren't doing any harm at all. But they wanted the books as keepsakes instead of to read. And so all those different groups were enjoying the book, were liking it, but they were treated so negatively. And it's like they were saying, you're enjoying it wrong. You're only supposed to like it for the morals.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that was a thing that the thing about like the intended meaning for like the creator thing. Like that was a very strong negative point for it. Like I also felt like after that moment with Twilight, another point you could see is the amount of ignoring of her or even dislike of her was just coming at her out of multiple directions for Twilight during like when she was going through the different main 6 members. And I'm just like, and one thing, it's like Twilight has definitely lost a lot of favor with a lot of people.
Yeah, that's definitely the trick with this episode, is that it does cover different sorts of like demographics within each member of the main 6. But I guess the question is this: do they do it properly?
Actually, funny note, like at first I thought this episode was just going to be like, okay, the trappings of fame, the downside and everything. And at first...
Yeah, that's what I thought it was going to be from the promo.
Yeah, at first I thought it was like they were making it really forced, like, okay, like everybody has no power to be like, alright, that's enough, you need to get off my property, or you need, like, yeah, okay, I only do, I don't know, 3 to 5, that's when I meet with my fans. Like, I mean, you have some power over this stuff, but then, like, when it became clear what the intention was, just like, yeah, at first, okay, it seemed like forced negativity, but just like kind of the clear exasperation with, okay, what they're actually talking about, just, yeah, the relentlessness, the feeling of like, damned if you do, damned if you don't, sort of like renders it unforced negativity for me. It's like, it's almost like, yeah, genuine venom. It's like what's his name, G.G. Allen, the guy who made like, yeah, crass, just like the most offensive stuff he could think of, tried to make it a political statement through his songs. Recent reviews on that, they're like, yeah, the guy was kind of an idiot, he's trying as hard as he can to offend, it would be forced stupidity, but the fact that he's doing all of this because he's genuinely that thrown off, he's genuinely a troubled guy, renders it as unforced stupidity. It's actually kind of interesting in its own way, and I mean, I did not say stupidity in regards to the episodes, yeah, to be clear, but I mean, you know, this is like, yeah, pure venom, and it feels like genuine, you know, I mean, it's not like, well, yeah, I know you guys are, well, maybe I should frame that in like, nobody seems to want this to be pure venom, everybody doesn't want to forget that, okay, it might have not have been intended to be as mean as all that, but I mean, I don't know, I do think there's at least on some level some exasperation there, some like, come on, you guys, you won't give us a break here, I mean, even when we try to say it nicely, you keep on coming, and I mean, yeah, and, you know, I haven't been one of the writers for this show, like getting like probably countless emails, probably countless Twitter responses.
I'm sure they get way more grief than anybody deserves, and that's not fair to the writers.
No,
I mean, it's like some of those griefs might have been shown in the episode and like in lower forms. Like, for Rarity's case, the boycotting could easily represent like hazing or hatred for certain writers or certain writings of characters and such.
Yeah, like, I mean, it's like in the context of the episode, it makes no sense. It's 2 days later at most, and everybody is taking this up to 11. It's just like there's no, like they have no dimensions to them. They're all like, everything you tell them goes in one ear and out the other. They exist within the episode to do this thing as honestly as possible.
Now that you bring up the boycott, that is something else that I felt just didn't quite work. Now, this is a very meta episode. You know, it's got a lot of kind of fourth wall jokes referring to the fandom and all that. But that bit, especially with the reaction to Rarity and also some with the reaction to Twilight, didn't really just work because, you know, if we critique the characters or say, oh, I'm not going to watch the show anymore, this is us, people in the real world, talking about a fictional cartoon show. Whereas when the same complaints happen in universe, you know, there was that bit where he said, well, I think your character would have been better if you'd stayed in Canterlot. And she said, my character, I'm a real person. These are real stories. This is stuff that really happened to us. And when you have all of this situation happening in universe, it's like people don't realize that these are real people. This book is autobiographical, and they are treating it as fictional the way we treat it as fictional, because it is.
But I don't.
But then it's like it's having devastating real world consequences on them.
I always thought that was more on how it explains on how a person can be more obsessive with the character, at least what that reporter's doing. That he seems to be a lot more obsessive with the character. A lot.
Yeah, but it just doesn't work to me that like if you read a book that was somebody's autobiography, then you would say, this is this person's real experiences. You're not going to critique them for how they developed their character or planned out the plot line, because there is no character or plot line. It's real events. And that just kind of fell apart for me.
I will give on that. Although I do want to comment on the Pinkie Pie thing about the laughing at her and all that. I thought I'd say this. Like, I always thought that the entire crowd just laughing at her, it's mostly to show how, how people say that Pinkie Pie is the worst character ever because they keep flanderizing her? Well, these people, they're mostly addressing that because, the thing is that, like, they only say that, like, Pinkie's only there to make jokes, and the people that are laughing is basically, like, the sum of that. Now, granted, I'm more of a 50-50 on this because, yeah, you are right, because sometimes, yeah, they do that. Like, season 4 is a good example when she's not in the focus because she acts like she kind of acts like a child that does not have any good humor, and my God, does she really not have any good humor in season 4.
Season 4 gave us Pinkie Pride.
Yeah, I meant when it's not the focus on her. Whenever she's in the sideline.
She was the focus of Pinkie Pride. That was the one with Weird Al. That was one of the funniest episodes of the show.
He was talking about, like, early season 4 when she wasn't in the focus. Spotlight, background.
That's what I meant. Like, which I agree that the writers using her for jokes is not a good idea. But at the same time, they also addressed the part where they said that no matter what Pinkie is in, she's always just going to be a joke and not a good character anymore, which I believe that's what that section is trying to do.
Pinkie Pie was hilarious, and Philly Vanilli, I will fight you to death on that one. People who are getting furious with me right now. 2, I
am one.
Character complaints.
Oh, God.
The character complaints. Okay, I feel like there's going to be a lot of dimension to that. Like, some people like certain characters more than others. I mean, a lot of fans will stand up for the same characters that other people attack, and I mean, actually, this show gets a lot of praise. I mean, there are a lot of people who will tell you that just, okay, every moment of it is better than the last one, but again, I guess, for, like, even if it is a vocal minority, let's be real here, but I mean, yeah, like, for just the vocal minority coming at the writers, that's still probably enough people, and still probably the primary group actually trying to make their voices heard, so that, yeah, it's like this episode, the idea seems to be it almost doesn't even care to differentiate, it's just like, it's all, like, overwhelming at this point.
I guess that's kind of the whole idea about this thing. It's like, again, it really depends on the kind of person you are this episode. This one really depends on the kind of person you are, and I don't think anybody is wrong when it comes to, like, feeling like this episode has too much venom, especially with the way that they handle the characters and the way that the groups handle each character. That's kind of thing.
Like, to me, like, if I didn't make it clear before, the venom to me here is kind of the good part. Like, that's what feels genuine, at least on some level. I mean, I don't know if it's funny per se, but I mean, it feels like you're kind of getting the writer's mindset here. Like, in the episode, in the context of itself, almost doesn't even, like, hold up. I mean, like, as Calliope pointed out, like, okay, the positive groups, like, get the groups of ponies who are fans of the journal, they get boxed in with the ones who are being endlessly critical. It's not really a two-sided look. Okay, the ups and downs of fame. No, it's just like the world has suddenly gone insane, and everybody now feels ownership over these real-life ponies, just trying to tell you what happened to them. Like, okay, it almost, like, it's kind of like parental guidance in that regard, like, or at least for me, what parental guidance was, which was an absolutely hysterical, promising idea, opening segment that, yeah, just sort of rested on its laurels, just like...
Fell apart at the seams?
Yeah, kind of like as it went on, just like almost... Just, yeah, assumed that one idea was going to carry it all to the end, and maybe in, like, as 3-act story doesn't necessarily hold up, but there's almost still enough there so that, yeah, I can kind of recommend watching this.
Yeah, it's like I said, I like this episode. I think it's a good episode, but I can definitely tell that there are going to be people that are not going to fully enjoy this one because of the message and connotation behind it. And to those people, I could say, yeah, I can understand the problems.
One thing I said is, like, it's almost kind of the missing link between Stranger Than Fan Fiction and that Spice Up Your Life episode. Like, okay, it's not just Spice Up Your Life, like, kind of straw-manning, like, hey, all critics are mustache twirling, except it's a female pony, are evil countesses from scary castles who just want to take all the fun out of everything. Like, okay, no, yeah, this isn't... well, okay, it is a straw man, but no, it's like it does have like a sort of legitimate grievance, but yeah, it's not quite at the Stranger Than Fan Fiction level where it's just kind of having a blast, being this simultaneous celebration and elbow in the ribs that just is really clever all the way down. It's just sort of like, okay, it has its target, and it's just sort of lobbing like punches haphazardly.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, that's kind of why I asked the question, like, the way that the episode handled its message, did it do it in the best way possible? That answer really depends on who you are, unfortunately, in this situation. For me, I don't think it does, but I don't think it's offensive.
I mean, I'm not offended by it. I'd say
exactly.
It was almost
I think,
cute, but that sounds kind of condescending.
I think it's harmless enough. For me, at least, I think the episode and the way they handled it is harmless enough that you could still get a laugh, or you could still get a good laugh out of it and such. But I know some will feel like that it is a little offensive, and they won't exactly enjoy it because of that.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, okay, I do have a couple more points to make. I wanted to get my negative reactions out of the way because there was some stuff that I liked in the episode. The song I thought was pretty good. Not great. The music, I really enjoyed the music that they had for the song. We were saying before it had a really good beat.
Yeah,
and I liked it. And I really liked some of the animations that they had in it, even if they reused the same animation like
yeah, they did.
Okay, guys, let's complain about that for several more hours, shall we?
Let's not. The song lyrics, like a couple of you said, were a little too on the nose, but not awful. So I would say the song was good, not great. There was some really good... Oh, go ahead.
Well, just like, yeah, there's one thing I wasn't totally sure of at the time, like the "We're Not Flawless," is that just supposed to refer to the ponies or the writers themselves? Because, like, I feel like, okay, if it refers to the ponies, then, okay, that doesn't exactly cover every fan's complaint. I mean, if you're trying to answer the complaints, there's a lot that you're not there. If it refers to the writers, like, okay, yeah, we're a work in progress, I'm like, I'm not sure how convincing that's going to be, like...
Yeah. When you guys haven't been in the show for, like, ever since the beginning. Like, some of you guys just joined in season 5 or season 6.
Or more just like, hey, come watch our show. It's a work in progress.
I guess take your pick on that one.
Even though I wouldn't rank it among the top songs in the show, I did enjoy the song. Some of the comedy in this episode was spot on.
Oh, yeah.
Rarity wearing her emotions and stress sewing and referring to Applejack as Pony Who Still Likes Me. You know, Rarity's always good when she's being overly dramatic.
And is it wrong for me to say that seeing Applejack stress herself out trying to cater to her like family, basically. I found that almost kind of like hilariously funny because, good God, do I know people like that?
Yeah, considering how many mental breakdowns we've seen in this show, we don't often get to see Applejack going off her gourd, and this was that was really well done. Especially how she's like, I can't turn my back on my family. It's like,
yeah, like up until she said, like at first I was like, oh yeah, you can't kick people off your property. And then she's like, I can't turn my back on my own family. And
I'm just like, they're not even your family, but I don't blame people who do this anyways.
I don't even know what to say to that.
Like, literally, it's like, I couldn't help but say, like, they're not even in your own family, but I know plenty of people who have fandom families, so screw it, I guess.
Oh, God. Oh, God. It's too much. Too much.
That's kind of what made me laugh.
Episode was, Twilight, like, pausing in the middle of talking to Pinkie Pie, like, waiting for everybody to laugh at something she says and not getting it, like, boy.
Yeah, so there was some spot-on comedy in this episode, and probably my favorite part of the episode, and anyone who has heard me complain about the show in the past is probably going to be shocked, but my favorite part of the episode was Starlight Glimmer.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I have complained about her at length in the past, but I thought she was the best part of the episode. She had some really funny bits, like the bit at the beginning. I learned this spell when I had to make copies of Manifesto.
That joke! I was like, they went through the censors, and it's like, apparently there's something known as a Communist Manifesto, which...
Yes, the Communist Manifesto.
I don't know, like, because at first I actually made reference to even something more horrible, and I didn't know something horrible was happening at the time when the reaction was happening. Like a mind control.
And not to mention Starlight herself, like, she played, like...
To think about.
Yeah, and she was, in a way, the most proactive character in the whole episode. Like, she was the one who, at the end, the other main six were like, I have no idea what to do. And she was the one who had the idea to go get the two fillies who I guess she knew had read and enjoyed the journal. And I also loved her coming to her friend's defense. Like, when they saw the two ponies who were criticizing Rarity, and Rarity was upset, Twilight was going to go off and comfort Rarity, and Starlight's like, I'm going to have a word with these two. And then we never see them again.
Take it to them, Starlight.
That's what I mean about Starlight. She was definitely one of the better parts of this episode. This is kind of why when some people, like, Unova, you brought it up. Like, yeah, I do have a problem with Spike's disappearance, but I do not think replacing Spike with Starlight would have worked, because Spike is also part of the journal, and honestly, I don't think he would have had the same proactive role as Starlight. As I said, she's the outsider in these sort of scenarios, and is able to add more of her own, like, kind of like thing into a situation like this. Whereas every other member of the main six, not so much.
Actually,
I guess
Spike wanting to have a word with those ponies. If I had to, like, now that I think about it, pick one moment that I would say was definitely meant for Spike, it might have been like, oh, I'm going to have a word with those ponies that dare to talk trash about Rarity.
Oh, yeah!
Yeah, I could have seen that. I could have seen that.
I could see that, but if Spike actually tried, I think he probably would have tried to be very intimidating and failed. Whereas with Starlight, I'm willing to bet she made those ponies sorry.
She took control of an entire town, I'm pretty sure.
Well, Spike has the power to melt a solid iron lock with his fire breath, so he could probably be intimidating if he were a bit more sadistic, but I just thank goodness he wasn't.
Burn! Run away, you pony!
But then again, he's also in the journal, so I'm pretty sure he would have had his group of fans as well.
Yeah. No, his thing would have been that, like, everybody hated him. Like,
No.
His chapters were all the worst.
People would have been like, the Spike entries are the worst entries of the journal.
No. That would have been the thing. This was season 4, remember? We had some of the best Spike episodes. Equestria Games, Inspiration Manifestation, and debatably, if you think about it, Power Ponies, even though that was a comic in the actual journal. So I don't think they would have...
People still haven't laid off Spike entirely there.
Oh, come on. Like, I mean, like, for the Power Ponies, like, I kind of feel like it's kind of like one of the bad Spike episode, but the other two are quite good enough. Like, I don't think he would have gotten that sort of negative fan reaction.
Keep in mind, they were fishing up like any criticisms they could think of off the top of their heads here, many of them from those earlier seasons. Like, if it came to anything with Spike, I don't think that they would have been able to pass on that one.
Why is Spike the butt of every joke? Because that's what happened in season 4.
At the beginning, even in like Rarity Takes Manhattan. Oh yeah, that.
Or how about when he just got inexplicitly launched in Castlemania? Like, no reason, just bye.
Oh wait a minute. Oh, what about that moment?
There was a lot of slapstick in Castlemania.
Oh, what about It Ain't Easy being Breezy's, and when Spike was the cause for like the Breezy's being taken apart from their course, and then apologizing and then disappeared from the episode.
Like I said,
how about all the Equestria girls where, hey, Spike can't really be one of the gang, he's the dog.
So just in conclusion, the episode really rubbed me the wrong way for coming across too negative and mean-spirited, but I did enjoy some of the entertainment value, and I thought Starlight was really well written. So that's all my thoughts, and I'll pass it on to second.
Oh, I already gave mine, and I apologize if I was chiming in over anyone there.
I think we all were.
Direction we were going here.
I think we all were, but whatever. We got our points across.
All right. And so on that note, though, to anyone who feels they were talked over or whatnot, additional thoughts, anything you'd like to throw out there before we part ways?
You first, Unova.
Alrighty then. Well, I really mentioned a lot of like my grievances with the episode, like initially, since I felt like that was a good starting point. But I kind of wanted to leave like my final thoughts with like going like a bit positive about like my overall happiness from the episode I was granted, and that was like the reactions of like the main 6, like basically before the song sequence, were completely priceless. Like my favorite being Fluttershy being completely extremely peeved off, essentially being like my favorite part. Yeah. As I'm now like really starting to be like, I'm really am being a Fluttershy fan now. Like the changes. Like the change of the seasons have really made me go for like her side a lot more. Meanwhile, for Piggy, it's like I was laughing at the same moments when I was first watching the episode at the same as the pudding. I was like, oh God, why is laughing contagious? Like I was laughing along with everyone else, and definitely like Applejack was like, hey, how does it feel being appreciated a lot more than you usually are in the fan base, huh?
Yeah, it was meta this episode, and that's what I guess made me enjoy it to a certain degree, but if I could say anything about this episode, I'd say be a little more careful in the future, because they have done episodes like this kind of idea before with Slice of Life, Stranger Than Fanfiction, or even Spice Up Your Life. Like some of the ideas that they've done with this episode, they've done before, but this time they kind of, I feel like they went a little too close to home with some points, and that's kind of why, you know, it can be seen as venomous to some. I feel like next time if they want to do something like this, because they might do another episode like this in the future, we just don't know when, I'd say be a little more mindful and try to be more lighthearted and not really make it feel like you know, like outward jabs towards a person. And one of the last points I want to bring out is like the end quote from like the episode that they mentioned. It was like, fads would come and go, but friends forever. I felt like that was a bit of like an inappropriate term of like using like the word fad, because I feel like it might have worked in the context of the episode for like how all of this would really be like one big fad, even though I didn't really get it from like the first time I watched the episode. But in the term of like criticizing the fandom, this is not really like makes sense unless you consider like the real friends who actually understand about the writer's struggle and such to be the friends in this part. Meanwhile, the nitpicking and critical side of the fan base, that's bad, which then I'd just be like, wait, what are you talking about, episode?
Well, that seemed to me more just, okay, yeah, the brony fad, like, yeah, constant conventions and just, like, everybody trying to review every episode and such, like, that's gonna pass, but the stuff that the deeper stuff will stick with you, or the friends you've made during it might stick with you.
Like, maybe like under that interpretation, yeah, but they weren't really clear about it, or they might have misappropriated those words. So, like, overall, like, the episode gave me, like, some dislikes. During this podcast, I was kind of a bit corrected on the part about Starlight that I found out. But, and with, like, my laughter and such, enjoying, like, a bit of, like, the cynicism of, like, the episode, I feel like this episode kind of deserves very much I initially said it was between a mid-tier and a good episode when I first watched it. Now I feel like, from my experience, I didn't take it like as negatively, but it might just be like a mid-tier episode, yet it still might end up being like in my top 3 episodes for the season. Not to say like there was other episodes that will rank lower than this, just on an entertainment value status, this overshot Parental Guidance and like the Yak episode, that was Not Asking for Trouble, and also a Royal Problem as well. It overshots those episodes for possibly being like the most entertainment I've possibly gotten from an episode this entire season. Yet, quality-wise, it's very divisive, and I feel like it's quite deserving of the mid-tier status because of it.
Yeah. Anybody else? Final thoughts?
I get what I said this before, but I get what they were going for. And you know what? I feel like they did the same thing well in Stranger Than Fan Fiction, and to a lesser degree in Party Pooped and Spice Up Your Life. Because those episodes just, despite jabbing at the critics, just felt positive while I was watching it. This one felt negative while I was watching it, and I didn't like that.
I get what you're saying.
That is fair, yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of what I mean. That's why I say, like, I can understand people that weren't really, like, on board with this fully because, that it's not their intention to be this way, but it can come off that way.
I mean, like, I guess I'll preface this with saying, like, I do think negativity can also feel fake. I do think there's such a thing as, like, the poor me effect, the kind of narcissistic, vindictive sort of criticisms of someone effect. That said, I mean, I feel like, watching this show, I've been spoon-fed a lot of positivity, and I mean, I almost, like, and on some level, that almost repels me more than, the, like, negativity that feels real on some level. So, I mean, that might be why, I mean, like I said, I don't even think that this is, I think the writing on this is pretty forced in a lot of ways, but I think it gave me enough so that I could at least say a B- or whatnot, and like, I'm a guy who even hates that philosophy too, like, oh, negativity is more honest, it's more real. I'm like, not necessarily so. Sometimes that's just the half-baked excuse for it, but I mean, I guess in this case,
I can never stand when people say, I'm not being rude, I'm just being honest. And it's like, you can be honest and rude, and you can be honest and polite.
We're going back into Honest Apple now, please.
Let's not. We've been going for over 2 hours.
Yeah.
Let's not do that.
Okay, yeah, my point, though, I guess, was that in this particular case, I did feel like I was getting some, like, genuine, the writer was communicating some genuine emotion. I felt like I got a little bit of a look into their mindset, and so can't say this episode gave me nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think probably all of us here, I don't know specifically what everyone does, but I think we've all made videos or made fan art or written fan fiction and had to deal with people being overly critical or going out of their way to be, I don't know. I mean, I made that video like over 2 years ago predicting what the Crusaders cutie marks were going to be, and I still get people commenting on it saying, you're wrong, that's not what their marks are.
Yeah, people don't realize that kind of video is like old as old.
For the record, her idea was better than what happened.
But I don't know that what their marks are now. So yes, I can definitely sympathize with where the writers are coming from, and we probably all can to a degree.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's not like there was nothing good in this episode. It did have a good entertainment value.
All right. So anyway, I guess that's it for us. Everybody want to say goodbye?
Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Ciao, people.
You heard it here first.